Roger Casale, who joins us from Florence in Italy. He's a former Member of Parliament for the UK's main opposition Labour Party. Really good to have you back with us, Roger. Now, this is set to be the most disruptive strike action in the NHS's history. Do you think it's necessary? Is this what it would take to get the government back to the table?
Clearly, those people who are striking think it is necessary. I don't think that an NHS consultant or a junior doctor takes this step lightly. They want to be doing what they've been trained to do, what the job that they love. They want to be with patients. They don't want to be out there holding up picket signs. So they must feel that it's necessary. And I think they feel that it's necessary not just because of the money, but also because of the relationship they seem to have with the government, which is very poor. And they say that the government is not talking to them. And not only that, that the government is now seeking to provoke them further by introducing legislation, which would force them to work and not to strike in certain circumstances. So I think it's a very difficult situation. It's not being well managed. I don't think they want to strike. And so I think the answer to your question is those people on strike feel it's absolutely necessary because they don't think that they have the right relationship with the government. Whether they will achieve that relationship in this way remains to be seen.
Now, it seems that everyone in the NHS has a similar complaint about conditions, from nurses to doctors to consultants, saying that the NHS is currently severely starved of funds, that staff are being overworked and underpaid. Is that the case? How did it get to this point, to the point where the NHS seems to be struggling to keep up with the demand and really to keep its existing staff?
Well, remember, the NHS is free at the point of use. It should be something that is available to everybody in Britain from cradle to grave, and it's funded through taxation. Now, the basic problem with that model is, with an ageing population, you're going to need more and more resources. So it's not that the NHS is starved of resources, but it will never have enough to meet the demand. And so an offer has been made, as you say, by the government, but it's not keeping pace with the expectations of the consultants. Junior doctors, who are, of course, also on strike, are even further behind. And it's difficult to see how this can end, how it can end other than through more and more confrontation. And that confrontation, of course, impacts very negatively on patients.
Now, critics argue that it's the Conservative Party who's essentially been decimating the NHS as well as other public services over its decade or so in power under various austerity programs. We know that an election in the UK is on the cards, perhaps in the next 12 months. Will the situation change if a Labour government is elected? Will Sir Keir Starmer and his people inject the funds that are needed in the NHS?
So they haven't said that they will do that, and that's not surprising when you're in opposition, unless you can see what kind of funds are available in the public finances. It's very difficult to make a spending pledge. But I think it's very difficult to see how Labour could meet the pay demands of the junior doctors and the consultants. Perhaps there would be a different approach, a different style, but I think it's very difficult to see how they would meet those demands, and they have not said that they will do so. What they do is criticise the government, make a political issue of it. To some extent, this is a problem of the government's own making, because they haven't run the economy well. They don't have more in the tank that they can spend on junior doctors and consultants. But let's remember that there are many other people who work in the public services as well. So you've got to think about people in the armed forces. You've got to think about people in the police force. You've got to think about teachers. I think the underlying problem is that there's not enough resources to go around. And if Labour come into government again, they will face that same problem. So I think it's going to be more a question of style over substance.
Okay, Roger Casale, we'll leave it there for now, but it's always really good to get your thoughts on the program. Thank you again for joining us.